Burrowed into the soft silk pillows, she watched in delight as chests filled with jewelry, tightly rolled shimmering fabrics, golden goblets, and clay jars of incense were arranged by her bed. Captivated by the beauty of the Navarrese princess, Caliph al-Mansur decided to please his new wife by honoring the ancient European custom of the morning gift. This lavish gesture, however, was the only deviation from the Muslim rules that the daughter of the King of Navarre was now expected to live by. The princess was the daughter of King Sancho Abarca and the three-time queen, Urraca, a woman of remarkable fate. She was named after her mother and was born in the year 967, a time when Navarre had managed to live in peace with the Moors for several years. However, maintaining neutrality and even peace on the Iberian Peninsula was far from easy. The Cordoban Caliphate, hungry for new territories, constantly sought to subjugate one city after another. For 150 years, the rulers of Leon and Castile had been struggling to rid their lands of the invaders, but so far, their efforts had been in vain. Their greatest weakness was their extreme disunity. Sancho Abarca did not trust the Moors. He knew that the cunning neighbors would eventually try to strike at him when he least expected it, so he was always prepared to fend off an attack. His wife and 4 children could always seek refuge in French lands if necessary. Strangely enough, it was not the invaders who broke the truce. The father-in-law of the King of Navarre, the powerful Count of Castile, learned through trusted sources that all was not well in the Caliphate, that the Moorish nobility was fiercely battling for power among themselves, and he decided to strike. The King of Navarre held his head in his hands. He understood that if he did not send reinforcements to his father-in-law, the Count of Castile would be doomed. At the same time, he was horrified at the thought of the retribution that would come from the Moors. And Sancho Abarca was right. Although the king led his troops to assist his father-in-law, and initially things were looking remarkably favorable for the Christians, ultimately their armies were defeated by the superior numbers of the Moors. The king's own brother was captured. The most renowned and influential warrior of the Moors was Al-Mansur. Cunning, intelligent, and as sly as a fox, he was a brilliant strategist. Despite being born into a less-than-noble family, Al-Mansur rose to immense power. As the Navarrese began to falter, he moved his armies further toward Pamplona. Both the Count of Castile and the King of Leon suffered at the hands of Al-Mansur, reigniting the flames of war. No one in Navarre could sleep peacefully. The Moors could seize the capital. What would happen to the queen and the children then? Everyone prepared for the decisive battle, and the Christians lost. It was nature that saved the state from complete ruin and submission to the Moors. A cold, snowy winter settled over the peninsula, an unusual occurrence for the warmth-loving southerners. Al-Mansur offered the King of Navarre a truce. Under the circumstances, it was the best option available. Sancho Abarca agreed to pay a substantial sum in gold and silver and to marry off his only daughter to Al-Mansur. The princess had just turned 14. Her mother wept for several days, mourning her fate, a Catholic, married to a Muslim, 35 years older than her. But the wedding could neither be cancelled nor postponed. In the year 981, the Princess of Navarre married Al-Mansur according to Islamic customs and received the name Abda. Although Al-Mansur had been married multiple times before, the daughter of the King of Navarre became his favorite wife. A year later, Abda gave birth to a son, Abda Armand Sanchuelo. With this complex name, she paid homage to her father, whom she did not expect to see again. In the luxurious palace of Córdoba, Princess Abda, wife of Al-Mansur, received everything she could possibly desire. The most exquisite treasures were laid at her feet. She commanded dozens of servants, and she clearly held the most honored place in her husband's harem. When Abdallah, Al-Mansur's eldest son from a Muslim wife, dared to show disrespect to the Navarrese princess, he was promptly sentenced to death. 11 years passed in peace and tranquility. But every truce inevitably comes to an end, and soon Abda's husband was once again fiercely battling her father and brother. In December of the year 994, Sancho Abarca passed away. Abda of Navarre mourned his death deeply, despite Al-Mansur's evident displeasure. This open display of grief for her loved ones created a rift between the beloved wife and the Moorish commander. A year later, Al-Mansur took another Christian wife, Abda's aunt, Countess Oneka of Castile. For years after that, he married yet again, this time to the daughter of the King of Leon. Three noble Spanish women shared the love of their Caliph under one roof. In the year 1002, Al-Mansur died. Before his passing, he suffered from a long and debilitating illness, and even during military campaigns, he was carried on a litter rather than riding a horse as he once had. His daughters stitched a shroud for him, and in that garment, he was laid to rest in Medina Sidonia. However, over the centuries, the exact burial site of Al-Mansur was lost, and no one has been able to locate it since. His son and successor treated his father's widows with great respect, allowing them to manage their own lives. Of course, this only applied to the Christian wives. For the Muslim women, the rules were quite different. Abda of Navarre requested permission from her stepson to retreat to a monastery in her homeland, and upon receiving his approval, she prepared for the journey. After a long time, she was reunited with her mother. The Queen of Navarre was also gravely ill, but the joy of seeing her daughter gave her strength. The princess eventually passed away in the monastery. The exact date of her death remains unknown. Like Al-Mansur, her husband and lord, she faded into eternity,